Hello, welcome to the next tranche of videos in the series on depression. I'm going to discuss the causes of depression in the next few videos and offer some solutions to help deal with the symptoms. Let's start with the big one, stress. And let's begin with a question. What is stress exactly? I'm going to describe stress as an overload on our systems. And by system, I mean our cognitive, emotional, and physical systems. So our brain, mind, and body. This overload occurs when we have too much to handle at one given point in our lives. It's not like having an examinable assignment, for example, and having a year to do it in. But it is like having an examinable project and having a week to do it in. You know you're never going to have sufficient time to plan, research, write up, edit, and submit that project in a week. Unless, of course, you dedicate your entire life to it in that week. But as none of us have this luxury, that very steep time frame is likely to be perceived by you as a threat. This perception causes an increase in adrenaline and cortisol, the primary stress hormone in your body, which in turn increases heart rate and blood pressure. Once the threat passes, these functions return to normal. So if you manage to get through that week and actually submit your project, you will return to normal. But it is a repeat of these stresses that cause worry and anxiety. So we can deal with one or two stressful events and we will recover from them, but it is when these events are continuous or repeated that we may find ourselves in a spot of trouble. Likely, the worry you feel will result in sleepless nights, feelings of being overwhelmed, a sense of being lost, and in some serious cases, an almost suicidal state of panic. Continuous stress can lead to a breakdown where your functioning is seriously impaired. People who have breakdowns are usually unable to continue with their regular lives for a period of time and need long-term rest, recovery, therapy, and sometimes medication to get better. Stress has a physiological effect on our body in that repeated and continuous stress causes a buildup of fatty deposits in our systems. These minute deposits roam freely in our bodies until they start to stack up against each other and eventually begin to clog our arteries. We can't see this process happening because it's occurring deep within us, but we will feel its effects. Stressed people will most likely ignore the effects, and we will tackle the question of why people do that later. Stress is caused by a number of things. Work, which may involve a heavy workload, a difficult boss, commuting problems. Financial stress occurs when people are living beyond their means or don't have enough money to make ends meet and may sometimes face poverty and homelessness. Difficult relationships are a major cause of stress and is such a big topic that it will be discussed in a separate video at a later date. I've also worked with young clients who've experienced exam stress, bullying at school, which has caused them huge amounts of worry and anxiety, and warring parents. And I don't have to tell you just how serious that is in terms of causing stress to children. So we are faced with stressful events at every turn and at every stage of our lives. And I know that even very young children can suffer stress. They just don't have the vocabulary to describe it as stress, but it is nonetheless. Their stress may manifest as difficult behavior or a withdrawal from the classroom or family. If your child suddenly becomes very quiet without there being a recent event which could explain the behavior, bear in mind that the child may be experiencing stress from somewhere, and it is up to you to ask the right questions and find out the source of that stress. This brings me to the question of why adults ignore the signals their minds and bodies put out to them when they are stressed, and why they choose not to do something about it even if they do get the signals. I myself have been guilty of doing this, and I paid a huge price for it. And since that episode, I've kept a close eye on whether I'm stressed or not. From my own experience and listening to my clients, it seems that when we detect stress in ourselves, we believe that it will go away on its own if we just endure. Patience is apparently a virtue and will be rewarded if we simply ride out the wave and wait until the end of whatever it is causing the stress. That's not the same as burying our heads in the sand, but rather a test of our own endurance and a display of our arrogance. How is it that we could ever think that stress goes away on its own? It does not. Even when the stressor, which is an event which causes stress, disappears, the residue of the exhaustion, mental anguish, and physical torment we suffered remains, and that stress can be triggered by even the smallest thing. So we are wrong to think that enduring will lead to triumph and we will soon return to normal. In fact, we do ourselves a disservice by thinking this, because we are in effect refusing to address the issues. So what do we do about stressful events and occurrences? For starters, it's always good to plan. So if you have an upcoming assignment or exam, plan it out. Plan your studying time, give yourself time to research and write, and give yourself an extra few days so you have a margin to play with should unforeseen events slow you down. The same works well for exams. It's no use trying to study for exams 2 weeks beforehand. I know, I tried that many years ago. It wasn't fun. If your relationship is causing you stress, face it and address it. If you and your partner are rowing all the time, try to understand why, talk to your partner and come to some agreement as to how you're going to handle these problems. If you have a difficult relationship with your boss, consider talking to your boss about it, or even, if you don't see that as an option, looking for a new job. There's no rule saying we have to stick at something if it's causing us unhappiness anymore. If your job isn't working for you, change it by trying to find a new one, or even a new way of earning money. Whatever you do, understand that there is no good outcome if you leave stress to fester. If it becomes long-term stress, it will end badly. I've had a few clients who have contemplated suicide because of the stress in their lives, and others who have aged prematurely due to stress. Left unchecked and untreated, continuous stress will lead to depression because your system will not like the pressure it is under. Your system can only heal itself up to a point. You have to do the rest. And if you're consistently ignoring the symptoms, you're leaving your system with no choice but to go into economy mode and survival mode, and that will bring about fatigues, eventually symptoms of depression. So address your stress. Admit that it is there. Look for warning signs like unhappiness, insomnia, poor dietary habits, lack of clarity, inability to make decisions, and a feeling that things are just getting on top of you. If you have some or all of these symptoms, consider yourself stressed and think about what you can do to alleviate that stress. Thank you for watching, and until the next video, take care. See you soon.